Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 9, The Sword of Kahless. Kor, Dax, and Worf go on an Indiana Jones adventure to find a relic. Obviously, because it's an Indiana Jones adventure. Oh, and the relic is a bat'leth. Hence the episode title, The Sword of Kahless.
Going along with Indiana Jones, Worf has a it belongs in a museum attitude. At least at first.
Yeah, he does actually. That's a good point. And it was in a museum, so, well, it was in the ruins of a museum.
It was in a secret museum.
Well, I didn't understand quite what this was about. I'm just launching off on a little rant here. They said it was the ruins of the Herc civilization, and they looted the Klingon homeworld 1,400 years ago, but now they're all dead. Did I get that right?
I think so.
So these caves were part of their city?
Were they?
I don't know. I don't know why there were so many caves. Yet the museum looked like an actual room, but the connecting bit just looked like a cave, as if you dig rooms underground and then leave them for a few hundred years, they just turn back into cave.
They slowly revert back.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but I don't care. I mean, the reason they were using the same cave set that they always use is because it's one of their sets. Anyway, what did you think of this episode?
I liked it a lot, because I always like Klingon stuff. So far. What about you?
Oh, yes, it's good fun. Lots of Klingon, pretty much entirely Klingon stuff, apart from Dax, who is kind of a Klingon in nature, or she can bring it out. So yeah, add lots of Klingons and punching, fighting, and a little bit of an adventure, and you get a fun episode.
Maybe I'm projecting because I love when Klingons are involved, but the writers seem to enjoy writing Klingon dialogue. For example, when Kor is talking about a guy looking proud to have died by a 1,000-year-old weapon, that sort of stuff is funny and it's heightened and ridiculous. It's a lot of fun.
They use honor as a sort of butter to make a sandwich of meaning. They just fill it into anything, but if they need an explanation for whatever they're doing, it's more honorable to do this.
I haven't had much exposure to Klingons, basically just what has happened in the show, so that hasn't worn thin on me, but it sounds like it hasn't on you either, so I guess they use it well?
Okay, so it could get annoying that they just say honor this, honor that, but I don't know. I don't think I ever really get tired of that. It's just like what Klingons do. I mean, you don't get tired of Odo going, "You humanoids." That's just Odo.
So, they've never done a Klingon spin-off show, correct?
Not at this point in time.
How have they resisted that?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's talk of it. Maybe one day there will be one. If they do a new Star Trek, I hope it's very Klingon-centric because they're fun and the Federation stuff has been done for 800 odd episodes, so there's very little left there to explore.
I like the stuff about how Worf should be more of a Klingon. I have to imagine that sort of story was common on Next Gen, but I don't know. So I'm asking?
There's a lot of weird context that's missing from this, which you can probably assume it's not vital to the plot. But yeah, a lot of stuff in Next Gen happened with Worf. So he's an outcast from the Klingon Empire.
Right, they mentioned how he's a pariah in this one.
Yeah, that pretty much happened in one of the Next Gen episodes, I think.
Okay, so he first loses his honor in Next Generation Season 3, Episode 17, Sins of the Father, and then it goes up and down like a roller coaster from then on until in Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 1, Way of the Warrior, he really annoys Gowron and loses all remaining honor.
The Emperor that they've mentioned a few times, who is not Gowron, he's actually Kahless. Okay, that's from a Next Gen episode where Worf finds some other Klingon chums that sort of accidentally... No, it's not an accident. They clone Kahless the Unforgettable. So they'd have a modern clone of this mythical guy.
Oh,
It's
wow.
really stupid, but they, in typical Star Trek fashion, once they've done that, they have to stick with it forever. Which is why Worf supports the Emperor, because he was responsible for him existing. And Gowron doesn't like him, because Gowron was in charge, and then some clone just appeared. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that this was referencing in Next Gen. I don't think it's too important. You can... Like, they do enough exposition that I'm sure you followed it, I would presume.
I did not feel lost at all at any point. They let you know that Worf is a pariah. Honor is important. This sword thing is important. I was able to follow it easily.
A lot of it's mixed in with stuff they've never mentioned before. Like, they never really mentioned the sword before, I don't think. Although I'm quite possibly wrong on that.
Wrong you are, because they totally mentioned it in Next Generation Season 6, Episode 23, Rightful Heir.
This episode was kind of violent for Star Trek.
Several battles. Some people were said to have died. There was blood. Yeah, it's pretty violent.
Worf had a festering wound. But also during a couple of skirmishes, people were visibly getting stabbed with... Well, I mean, it was special effects. Spoiler. But usually they don't show people getting knifed up.
That makes me think of Blood Oath, where it's really kind of vague and you can't really tell what's happening to people, whether they're just being pushed or sliced up. But here, they show you that end piercing someone, and you mentioned his wound. So, yeah, it's more violent here.
Usually they both run at each other with batliths, hit the batliths against each other a couple times, and then one of them punches the other in the head. And that person falls down, deceased.
Also, Worf and Kor were choking each other, which is... that's violent.
Super sexy?
I wasn't going that way.
Yeah, it's pretty... It reminds me of that... Okay, this is a big jump back. Remember that story... Remember that episode, The Storyteller, where Bashir and O'Brien have to go and deal with the Syrah?
Oh, yeah.
And then the noob Syrah tries to murder them, and they have a skirmish in his bedroom.
Yeah.
If you remember how clunky and how much like ballet that skirmish looked like,
Yeah.
in comparison, this stuff is very brutal and quite real. Gouging and choking. I mean, it's not Reservoir Dogs, but it's got a lot more punch to it.
Now that you said Reservoir Dogs, do Klingons have ears?
I would presume so.
Well, they could just have ear holes inside their hair. I don't know. You can't see them.
You can see them on... you can see them in the original series.
Oh, okay.
I think. So, they must have... They have ears. They can hear things. But wait, do they not? Did they all have? Do they all have hair over their ears?
Yeah.
I've never noticed that.
I'm constantly looking at the side of Worf's face, trying to spot an ear.
Okay, that's gonna really bug me now.
I thought, oh, maybe his forehead is some sort of echolocation thing, like a bat,
What?
because of the ridges, so it could catch more. I don't know. I went off on a tangent once I noticed that he doesn't have ears.
He has ears. He has to keep them warm.
Ears are much less effective when you cover them.
That's probably not true.
Aw.
Well, if you put a pillow over them, yeah. But a bit of hair around them could break the wind sound, make you more effective. Act like a boom.
What if Worf constantly hears a faint rustling because of that?
Because his hair is going in his ears.
Yeah.
Have you ever had long hair?
A long time ago.
Well, you should know that doesn't happen. So I'm not going to answer that stupid question.
I think they don't have ears.
Okay, that's going to be our new mission, find a Klingon with visible ears.
Because...
Oh, I've never noticed this, and now every episode I watch from now on, I'm just going to be looking for Klingon ears.
So it's canon that the translator will translate for other people. So that's just being beamed into his head, so he doesn't need to hear. And that's why Klingons are so loud, because they don't know how to modulate, because they can't hear themselves.
Why would they evolve spoken language if they were unable to hear?
Their ears got lazy and fell off.
Oh, okay. That is not how evolutionary biology works. Well, actually, it kind of is. But
Klingons don't have ears.
I think once hearing is an evolved trait, you're not going to just... A species won't lose it.
Okay, well, I think he hears through his forehead.
I don't know enough about Klingon physiology to disagree, but I'm pretty sure he has ears.
Yeah, his forehead.
Okay. All right, then we'll settle this one day. Not today, but this discussion will be settled.
All right, we'll set it aside.
On my honor. I actually have a couple of weird, I don't know if you want to call them criticisms. Let's say gripes, a couple of gripes.
I want to hear these gripes.
Dax and Worf ask Sisko for a runabout whilst he's shaving.
Mm-hmm.
What was he? Was he in his room? Where was he? Why was he shaving?
He was bored.
I know why he was shaving, to remain bald, but was he in his captain's room, or was he just in the bathroom in his quarters or something?
No, he was in his captain's room.
So he shaves in his office.
Yeah, on the company's dime.
That typical Sisko. That is typical. I bet he doesn't even clock out when he's having lunch. Which in a money-free society wouldn't really make a big difference, I suppose.
No, it wouldn't.
The other gripe I had is there's a force field, the Vulcans could not get through it, and we've been told that their planetary survey was meticulous, and Vulcans are more advanced than humans, at least in the Federation. Well, okay, that's a bit jumbled. Vulcans are technologically advanced, they have good kit. Dax has a couple of little Wi-Fi routers or something and gets through it in 30 seconds with help from Worf, who's not a scientist. Yeah, a race of pure logicians couldn't work it out.
I thought, I may be misremembering this, but I thought they got into the first part but didn't find the secret compartment.
I believe Core says the Vulcans never got through the force field.
Oh, why was it looted then?
Because, well, Someone else had been there in the past. I don't think Vulcans would loot a museum. That's not quite their style.
Seems logical enough.
But they can't have got through the force field, because then they wouldn't be surprised that the museum was empty, because the Vulcans would already have detailed that in their meticulous survey.
Oh, right. Unless they wanted to keep it unknown.
What would be the logic in providing a detailed planetary survey with hidden surprises?
It makes it more fun if you decide to go spelunking.
Yeah. Because goodness knows, spelunking through these caves would be really exciting.
They
Rats.
want to keep spelunking pure. Big time spelunking enthusiasts.
No, but a Vulcan... No, okay, so a Vulcan wouldn't... They don't care about spoilers.
That's because caring about that is illogical.
They do the same thing that the Klingons do. But instead of honor, they just say logic, which isn't quite so good, because logic is actually a thing you can work out pretty well, quite easily. Whereas with honor, you can give plenty of subjective interpretations which seem valid. So, well, anyway.
There's a greater degree of a fudge factor.
Yeah,
Honor.
Logic is not a very good substitute. One of the pivotal, exciting scenes is when Kor falls his stupid drunken butt off that little cliff.
And then Worf attempts to murder him, sort of.
Yes. I liked Kor's gambit, where he said, "Then you let go of the sword."
Throw me the idol, I give you the whip.
Yeah. But it's subtly different, because they're both holding one end of it. It was clever. I like that.
So did Worf ever try to murder someone as a Starfleet guy in Next Gen? He does it twice here.
Do you mean outright get someone killed?
Yeah, not just defense or any sort of justified situation in the line of duty. This is straight up, I want this guy dead.
He killed plenty of people in Next Gen. Well, he was head of security, and unlike Odo, he phasered at a moment's notice. But usually his role Next Gen was to come up with overly aggressive suggestions for Captain Picard to disagree with, so we can see how wise Captain Picard is, or to be KO'd by an alien to show that the situation is serious. Yeah.
Okay, but then he would be justified in those situations.
Yeah, I can't say that he definitely didn't go on a murderous rampage. We might have. There's a lot of episodes. I don't recall him having a little murder tantrum like he does in this episode.
I'm so glad that the Batleth wasn't a cursed item or something, because they ended up being overly aggressive toward each other, Kor and Worf. But then it's just because they're Klingons and they have the prospect of ultimate power, and so that's going to corrupt your mind. And so that's great that it wasn't some stupid curse taking over.
You kind of... okay, I say this about what you say a lot, but you've hit on a point that was raised about this episode. A lot of the fans, when it first came out, wanted it to be a magic special sword or a sword with hidden technology.
Why?
Because they couldn't understand that people go power mad. And if you give someone enough power, eventually they will go power mad, no matter who it is, more or less.
What is that saying? Absolute power corrupts?
Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go. Profit.
Yeah.
So that was running through my head, although I couldn't remember exactly, so it was jumbled. But that was running through my head this whole episode, and it's great. And I hate those cursed magic explanations.
It was quite Indiana Jones, because in the indie films, people go power hungry on the artifacts, but at the same time the artifacts also have special powers, but that's usually a separate facet. So in this, they just used the power mad aspect. The sword was not magical, and it's good that it wasn't, because that would be silly.
Right.
And like you said a long time ago, it's annoying to have episodes where people act goofy for trumped up plot reasons, because they're not them. You're not revealing something about a character, you're revealing just goofy stuff about a goofed up character.
Right, and this reveals a lot about Worf, that he would take that opportunity to run the Klingon Empire, that it stings that he's a pariah, that people don't think of him as a Klingon, and that hurts because his honor. So it all ties together. It works nicely.
I think any Klingon would want to do more than just hand over the sword. It's too tempting.
And so we see him act this way, and we think, whoa, he's in Starfleet? This is kind of crazy. He's just choking people out, wanting to rule an empire.
I'm sure almost anyone can be tempted by a big enough payout.
That sounds like a rule of acquisition.
Every person has a price.
I liked Quark's line, I don't have it here, about how Klingons, how their stories bore him because they don't involve profit.
Everyone dies.
Yeah.
I wonder what Ferengi stories actually are like then.
All about rising to the top, backstabbing people. So they talk about the creation of Facebook. Guess what I have?
Is it a quote?
It is.
Can you give it in its original Klingon?
A true warrior has no need to exaggerate his feats.
That was a pretty good impression of Worf.
Thank you.
I bet Worf has exaggerated.
He has to. It's in his blood.
What?
I don't know.
Okay, but I bet he has. He's been in hundreds of episodes. I bet at some point he exaggerated.
And then he's self-flagellated to to punish himself.
I can imagine that. He is quite a hardline Klingon.
But I like his quote. Let your actions speak for themselves, essentially.
For sure. It's a good sentiment. This episode stands by itself, I think. So,
yeah, there's no one in this episode saying, this is great, we're on such an adventure.
You'd say that mockingly, but in season 1, that sort of thing does happen.
Yeah.
So I guess this quote shows how the show itself has improved. Now, there is no exaggeration, really. It just stands on its own leggies.
The show has become a true Klingon warrior.
Full of honor and lacking in ears.
Lacking in ears, hardened by battle, pure of heart, understands loyalty and honor.
Lives by honor. Okay, what are we talking about?
How Klingons don't have ears.
I think we should go on to the next episode.
Yes.
Do you think it will be a good one?
Yes. I mean, I've liked every episode so far in season 4.
Oh yeah, this has hit the ground running now. But don't worry, there'll be a clunker one day.
Yeah, regression towards the mean.
No, just every episode's a roll of the dice. So Some come out great, and some don't.
So there are 6 outcomes?
Yes, 6 possible episodes. We're just watching them again and again. 24 episodes per series, so we've got 4 Klingon episodes, 4 Ferengi episodes.
No!
Alright, let's go on to the next one.
Sounds good to me.